Meghan was never my friend. She had an affair with my ex-husband, and I'm fed up remembering all the times she used me and dumped me when I was no longer useful.
What was once considered an unbreakable inner circle bond has now reportedly fractured beyond repair, as Jessica Mulroney, long seen as Meghan Markle's closest confidant during her high-gloss rise, is said to have broken years of silence. Sources close to the situation claim the shift is deliberate, emotional, and rooted in wounds that never truly healed. According to insiders, Jessica is done keeping things bottled up, and the picture she paints is one of betrayal that cuts far deeper than any public scandal. Those familiar with the situation say she's finished holding back, and the accusations now circulating privately are described as raw, sharp, and aimed directly at the woman she once described as a sister in all but blood. Behind closed doors, Jessica has reportedly confided to her inner circle, saying plainly, "Meghan was never truly my friend." A statement that insiders say reflects years of suppressed resentment finally boiling over. According to these accounts, the alleged betrayal went far beyond faded loyalty. Jessica reportedly believes Meghan crossed lines that shattered trust, exploited personal connections, and discarded her the moment attention shifted elsewhere. Sources frame this not as a simple fallout between former allies, but as a full reckoning, one that threatens to chip away at the carefully curated image of a duchess who has often positioned herself as a victim of circumstance. For years, the public watched their bond as a symbol of cross-continental loyalty, stretching from Toronto television sets to Windsor chapels. They were photographed together, celebrated together, and praised as proof that real friendship could survive fame and royalty. But now, as Jessica navigates the emotional fallout of her own marital split, insiders say the gloves are completely off. The pain, they claim, is rooted in moments hidden from public view, where trust was allegedly exchanged for ambition. What's emerging from those close to Jessica is not a story of mutual support, but one of calculated moves and quiet agendas. They say her words, if ever spoken openly, could rewrite the narrative surrounding Meghan's ascent, exposing cracks in a foundation built on borrowed glamour and fleeting alliances. According to sources, this shift didn't come out of nowhere, and it's been brewing for a long time. They insist it sat beneath the surface for years, fueled by swallowed frustrations and unspoken grievances. Now, with her marriage in ruins and her career still climbing back from earlier storms, Jessica is reportedly ready to speak her truth. In doing so, she's pulling back the curtain on a friendship she now believes was never as pure as it appeared on the outside. Rewind to the beginning, when everything looked seamless, effortless, and enviable. Meghan Markle was an ambitious actress carving her lane in Toronto's television world, focused on growth and hungry for opportunity. That's when she crossed paths with Jessica Mulroney, a stylist deeply embedded in Canada's elite social circles. Their connection sparked instantly, built on shared interests in fashion, fitness, and talk of empowerment. Jessica wasn't just another friend along the way. She was married to Ben Mulroney, a prominent broadcaster with powerful family ties that opened doors to influence and prestige. Meghan, described by acquaintances as a savvy networker, reportedly saw in Jessica a gateway to higher social tiers. They vacationed together, laughed over long brunches, and Jessica even styled Meghan's on-screen looks as her profile steadily rose. As Meghan's visibility grew, so did their public displays of closeness. Social media captured glowing tributes and affectionate moments that made their bond look untouchable. When romance blossomed between Meghan and a certain British prince, Jessica was reportedly one of the first to hear the news through late-night calls filled with excitement and disbelief. Her children later played roles in the royal wedding, a fairy tale moment that seemed to seal their friendship into modern royal history. But beneath the polished images, sources now suggest there were early signs of imbalance that were easy to miss at the time. Jessica provided introductions, wardrobe guidance, and emotional support during Meghan's transition into the global spotlight. In return, Meghan's rising fame elevated Jessica's visibility too, yet whispers from those familiar with their dynamic suggest Meghan approached the friendship with strategy in mind. The Mulroney name carried serious credibility in Canadian society. and Ben's connections were particularly valuable. Friends recall moments where Meghan leaned heavily on the couple, attending events and tapping into their network to build influence. At first, the arrangement worked for both sides, but insiders say as Meghan's ambitions expanded, the scales quietly tipped. Jessica, fiercely loyal, never saw it coming. She reportedly viewed Meghan as family, investing time and trust without hesitation. Little did she know, sources claim, that the foundation beneath the friendship was unstable, waiting for controversy to expose the cracks. That turning point arrived not with celebration, but with a social media storm in the summer of 2020 amid global conversations about racial justice. Jessica found herself accused by an influencer of problematic behavior tied to privilege. The backlash was swift and costly, wiping out television opportunities and brand deals. Meghan, who had positioned herself publicly as a voice for equality, reportedly distanced herself almost immediately. That silence, insiders say, changed everything. This was the moment Jessica began questioning the authenticity of their bond. Where was the support? Where was the woman who once confided in her about everything? Instead, Jessica faced the fallout alone, and resentment quietly took root. But insiders insist the rift went deeper than public controversy. Behind the scenes, Jessica's marriage to Ben was already under strain. Whispers circulated in Toronto circles about late-night conversations and shared events where boundaries seemed blurred. Jessica reportedly confronted Meghan privately, but sources say the response was deflection rather than reassurance. Meghan, focused on her new life in California, appeared to prioritize image over repairing old ties. Jessica allegedly felt like a stepping stone, useful until it wasn't. The royal wedding, once a personal and professional high point, became a symbol of regret. Her children in the bridal party and her front row seat tied her tightly to Meghan's orbit. When Meghan stepped back from royal duties, Jessica was left exposed, her reputation tangled in the controversy that followed. This wasn't just a professional blow, insiders stress. It was deeply personal. Jessica was left piecing together how someone she trusted so completely could vanish so thoroughly. Now, the most serious allegations are circulating quietly but persistently among those who claim direct knowledge of the situation. Jessica has reportedly confided to trusted allies that the betrayal went far beyond emotional abandonment, striking at the core of personal integrity. The words allegedly shared in hushed settings paint a devastating picture of trust shattered and loyalty broken. Those close to her insist this wasn't a passing rumour, but something Jessica believes followed a pattern of blurred boundaries masked as friendship and professional overlap. She recalls moments that feel unsettling in hindsight, events and trips that raise doubts she once pushed aside. Ben's influence in the media world made him a powerful ally for Meghan's ambitions, offering access to networks that could accelerate opportunity. According to these claims, lines were crossed, transforming alliance into betrayal and leaving damage that still lingers. Jessica's alleged statements are described as fueled by anger and sorrow. She believes Meghan tapped into her family's prestige, extracted value, and cut ties the moment Jessica became a liability in a carefully managed narrative. The timing of these revelations aligns closely with Jessica's own marital collapse after years of maintaining appearances. Sources close to the matter suggest unresolved issues festered beneath the surface, shaping outcomes quietly but decisively. Now, with her life in flux after divorce and career recalibration, Jessica's patience is gone. She's reportedly reminding those around her of borrowed designer items, leveraged introductions, and favors that flowed one way. These accusations aren't being shouted publicly yet, but they're moving steadily through elite circles in Toronto and beyond, gaining traction through trusted word of mouth. One confidant describes Jessica as outwardly calm, but inwardly simmering, carefully deciding how far to take this. The broader implications are staggering, with the potential to transform a once-envied friendship into a cautionary tale of deception, ambition, and heartbreak. And stories like this don't hold without threads of proof, and sources claim Jessica Mulroney is not speaking out blindly, and sources close to her stress that this time she's not relying on emotion alone to carry her claims. According to insiders, she allegedly has receipts, detailed timelines, and witness accounts that map out what she believes was a long, hidden progression built quietly over years of intertwined lives and shared spaces. This isn't described as vague suspicion, but as a trail that includes late-night text exchanges during high-profile events, shared hotel stays that stretched well beyond professional necessity, and overheard conversations at exclusive Toronto gatherings that set off alarms among mutual friends. Sources claim Jessica has already shared portions of this material with legal advisors, not to rush into a lawsuit, but as a protective shield. The goal, insiders say, is preparation, insurance against any denial or counter-narrative that might emerge if the story turns public. This cautious approach reportedly grew out of hard lessons learned during the fallout from the 2020 controversy, when Jessica was publicly accused of exhibiting textbook white privilege during a heated exchange with influencer Sasha Exeter. That moment exploded amid the global surge of the Black Lives Matter movement, placing Jessica under intense scrutiny. The backlash was swift and unforgiving, costing her television contracts, brand partnerships, and professional standing almost overnight. According to sources, that experience forced Jessica to revisit her past with a sharper, more critical lens. And buried deep within old emails, archived phone logs, direct messages, and social media exchanges, insiders say troubling patterns began to surface. Those patterns, sources allege, pointed to a level of closeness between Meghan and Ben that went far beyond platonic interaction. Jessica reportedly believes she overlooked red flags at the time, blinded by loyalty, trust, and the thrill of being part of a powerful, rising circle. What once felt harmless now appears, in hindsight, far more loaded. Insiders point to specific moments that still spark uneasy conversations, including a joint appearance at a charity gala in 2018. Observers reportedly noticed unusual familiarity, lingering touches, and private whispers that didn't go unnoticed by people in the room. Add to that family vacations where Meghan was a frequent guest, blending seamlessly into the Mulroney household, and sources say tension quietly simmered beneath the surface, unnoticed or ignored for the sake of peace. Jessica's regret, those close to her say, stems from ignoring early warning signs in favour of protecting the image they all shared. She often reminds friends how deeply Meghan was woven into her family life, attending birthdays, holidays, casual dinners, and styling sessions that doubled as bonding time. That closeness made the eventual break feel even colder when it came. According to sources, the separation wasn't subtle or gradual. Meghan allegedly stopped responding to calls and messages almost overnight. Friends say Jessica was left isolated during one of the lowest periods of her life, spiraling emotionally as professional losses mounted. Insiders believe that isolation placed additional strain on her marriage, accelerating fractures that were already forming beneath the surface. This accumulation of evidence, sources argue, shifts the narrative away from gossip and towards something tangible. Mutual acquaintances in Canadian media circles are said to have witnessed the dynamics firsthand, lending credibility to Jessica's claims in private discussions. Her camp even hints that more may exist, possibly a handwritten note expressing gratitude for introductions, or a recorded call that captures unguarded moments now viewed in a very different light. Insiders insist this isn't about revenge, but reclamation. Jessica reportedly wants facts on the table to counter what she sees as a polished persona that long overshadowed her own reality. As one source puts it, she's endured enough silence, especially after her 2025 divorce from Ben, which insiders quietly link to unresolved pain rooted in this chapter of her life. With her marriage ended and her career slowly rebounding through new ventures, Jessica is said to be compiling what she knows, methodically and patiently. She's preparing to challenge the version of events that painted her as the villain in a story shaped by privilege, fallout, and public judgment. To those close to her, the pieces fit too neatly to dismiss. They describe it as a mosaic of manipulation that raises uncomfortable questions about Meghan's relational history. On the surface, Meghan's life gleams with independence and advocacy, portraying her as a modern woman who boldly walked away from royalty in pursuit of authenticity and freedom. She has crafted an image of resilience, speaking openly about mental health, gender equality, and empowerment, positioning herself as a voice for the marginalized. But behind that carefully curated facade, sources allege a far more calculated reality, one defined by strategic alliances, measured risks, and swift, unforgiving severances when relationships no longer serve a purpose. Jessica's explosive claims highlight this duality sharply. Publicly, Meghan champions sisterhood and solidarity through podcasts, books, and public appearances. Privately, sources say her actions suggest opportunism and fierce self-preservation at any cost. The Duchess has spoken eloquently about uplifting women, yet her inner circle has steadily shrunk, with former close friends abruptly cut loose. This pattern, insiders argue, isn't new. They point to other relationships marked by sudden estrangement, including family tensions and professional partings with mentors who once supported her ascent. Jessica's story adds a particularly damaging layer, accusing Meghan not just of drifting away, but of actively infiltrating her marriage for personal gain, exploiting trust built over years. Publicly, their bond was celebrated through glossy photos, social media tributes, and joint appearances that screamed loyalty. Privately, insiders say it was deeply uneven, with Jessica consistently giving more time, resources, emotional labor than she ever received in return. If substantiated, the affair allegations expose a chilling willingness to cross ethical lines for advantage. Ben's status as a media figure and heir to a political dynasty made him an undeniably valuable asset. Sources claim Meghan's charm and ambition may have blurred boundaries that should never have been crossed. Jessica initially endured the mounting humiliation quietly, prioritizing damage control and public stability. She now reportedly views that silence as enabling behavior that allowed deception to grow unchecked. What emerges instead is a portrait of someone who collects connections like trophies, holding onto them for utility and discarding them when they dim or pose risk. Friends say Jessica frequently reminds them of the countless times she covered for Meghan, from last-minute styling to emotional support during the most turbulent phases of her royal transition. The eventual dumping came without ceremony, aligning closely with Meghan's relocation to America, where new networks and fresh opportunities awaited. This discrepancy continues to fuel debate. Meghan's defenders dismiss Jessica's claims as bitterness, while those close to Jessica insist this is long overdue truth-telling. The public has been fed a flawless image, but insiders say the layers beneath tell a far grittier story. If Jessica's accusations gain momentum, the fallout could be seismic, reaching beyond personal drama into Meghan's broader legacy. Her marriage to a prince, already scrutinized, could face renewed questions about trust and loyalty. Sources speculate about quiet conversations in royal circles, watching carefully from a distance. Jessica's split positions her as a sympathetic figure reclaiming her voice after years of silence. The implications stretch into Meghan's brand, philanthropy, and business ventures, all of which risk scrutiny through a lens of exploitation rather than empowerment. The monarchy, though distanced, remains indirectly linked, aware that scandal echoes long and wide. Jessica's story humanizes the cost, a woman stepping out of the shadows to reclaim her narrative. The line of succession remains untouched, but personal reputations hang in the balance. This isn't just gossip insiders stress, it's a structural shake-up. It forces a deeper question about power, ambition, and the price of silence. Meghan has yet to respond publicly, her camp maintaining the dignified quiet that has long served as a shield. But Jessica's alleged words linger, casting a growing shadow over what was once an unassailable image of grace and resilience. Sources say she's utterly fed up, exhausted by a cycle of use and discard that left her alone to pick up the pieces of her life. As Jessica moves into a new phase post-divorce, newly empowered by independence, the world watches closely. Will she go fully public, or let whispers continue to erode the facade over time? Either way, The narrative has shifted, and once truth is set in motion, it rarely retreats. If you're following this story closely, make sure to like, subscribe, share, and drop your thoughts in the comments, because this saga is far from over, and the next chapter could change everything.